Hello, welcome back to Virtual Office Hours with Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, I've missed you. Actually, I've seen a lot of you, but I've missed this, right? Having a moment here in the office to take a deep breath and debrief and share.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we're just doing a little check-in today because a lot's been going on.
Yeah, and I kind of want to start out by saying that, we're trying to really adapt and make sure that we're getting to our residents in more than one way. This is obviously one tool that we use that we've been really fortunate to have the opportunity to use, especially when we were worried about, COVID, but we are coming out to the community to do office hours, which I'm so excited about. The city of Winter Garden is the first stop, and we're really I'm trying to keep my mind open for a format and what to talk about. And if you have any thoughts or ideas, please reach out to us, because for me, the most important part was making it accessible. And I think local government needs to be accessible to everybody. And so understanding that it's not easy to get downtown, especially on a Board of County Commission meeting day, it was really important for us to try to get out there as often as possible. So we're going to keep doing this, but we're also going to do that. And then every now and then, I know you've noticed that I look at my camera and I start talking, because sometimes it's about something coming up the next day. And I want to make sure that I'm sharing that, and it's urgent, or it's something that I know is of great concern.
Yeah, so for the in-person office hours, September 22nd is going to be our first one next Thursday in the city of Winter Garden. And email district1@ocfl.net so we can make sure that you have a time. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Just pop on by, and
it's not going to be a formal
super
presentation.
Excited.
Yeah, it's not going to be a formal presentation. Although, if there's a want for me to come back and do that, we can do it the next time. But this one, I really wanted just to make myself available. And if it's not necessary, or if it's not convenient for them, then you know what? It's okay, because I'm going to be doing my work either way. And just to have the opportunity, I'm grateful to the leaders in Winter Garden for offering me that space.
Yeah, it's incredible. And then we also have been out and around town recently. Commissioner Wilson gave a presentation to Horizon West Rotary.
Oh, I love the Rotary. Thank you to all the Rotarians out there who have reached out to us, invited us to speak. The Horizon West Rotary, it's, the way I feel about Horizon West, it's so near and dear to me, not just because it's my district, but also because it's a startup, right? The Horizon West Rotary is new. And these are people that are stepping up and stepping out in order to form a history and tradition in a community. And so it was so great to see some new faces, some old friends, and catch up with the folks in that area. I would love to go back. There was so much to talk about, and the time goes like this. So thank you for the invite, Linda Sibley, if you're tuning in here. I so appreciate everything you do for your community. And we have such great partnerships out there. It was wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. And we've been talking lately, maybe we should do a biannual visit to some of the Rotary clubs, because there's some interesting stuff going on all the time. So keep an eye out to the Horizon West Rotary for another time that we can come back and say hello and give the update.
Yeah, and if you are somebody, new to a community, or, in a community, but you're trying to get plugged in and involved, reach out to your Rotarians. The Rotary Club, it's a very active civic group that does, they have their own philanthropic work that they do, but it's also a wonderful way to network and to meet other people. And a lot of times those are places you wouldn't normally, or people that you wouldn't normally meet in your regular professional world or social world. Mm-hmm. So it's something I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. And then next week, Commissioner is going to be giving a presentation to the Windermere Rotary. And they are like, the Rotary is the best way to start your day. The lunch ones are great, but the morning ones, you look at it on paper and you're like, I'm going to be there at 6:45 in the morning. I'm sure everybody's going to be sleepy. No way. It never
so fun.
is.
Yeah,
it's
fun.
The best.
It's a fun way to start the day. Exactly. I can't wait.
Yeah, so super excited for that. If you are part of Rotary Club and you haven't reached out yet, I know we're setting a date for the Winter Garden Rotary, so I'm super excited.
Or really any civic club. I've been so fortunate, because I've been able to meet with Girl Scout troops and Boy Scout troops, and it's just an enjoyable part of this role is, really breaking down some of the facts and figures and getting into what we do in Orange County. And I hope it's helpful, and I want to make sure that we just extend the invitation to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of on that note, Commissioner, maybe we want to just go over a couple other places you'll be in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
There have been a number of issues coming up to the office, particularly flooding near Reams Road. Yeah. We are working on getting staff out there directly.
Yeah, and I know that some of the residents that we have, friends and neighbors that we have, in the Reams Road area that I've spoken with, and I know that there have been some pretty horrible decisions made on the way that the development and planning in that area is done. There is, Reedy Creek right there, Lake Reams, drains down to Reedy Creek, which then drains into Shingle Creek, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But these are things that we understood about the structure of that area, and yet here we are. There wasn't proper drainage on the existing road. There doesn't seem to be an interest in getting a fix before they do the overall road project. And I am still pushing on this side to get answers. I think that we, as a county, have to look long and hard at our stormwater retention and the way we're treating all of the runoff, right? The more we build, the more parking lots, the more roads, the more stuff just runs right off. And where is that going? And if there is water running and there's a road and then water on the other side, it has to go. It's going to get there. And if there wasn't sufficient design for it to go under, then it's going to go over. And that's where things get very dangerous on the road. But, it's affecting, even our Windermere High School football team and the families at Windermere High School, because the ground is so mushy in the park where they park to go to the game that the Parks Department in Orange County called the school and said, we can't park cars there anymore. They're sinking into the mud. And, it appears at first glance to be something that looks like, we want to preserve the fields. Well, yes, the fields are for multi-purpose, and there is a value to that. But the other reality to it is that it's not a good idea to have your car, parked in soft mud. So, we just have some challenges out there, and I want to thank everybody for being patient with me as I try to get internal systems moving in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are out and about in the coming weeks. Make sure to follow our social media where we post, where we'll be in the next couple weeks. We'll be in the city of Winter Garden, City Hall.
Yep.
We'll be at Windermere High. We'll be at Reams Road.
Yeah, we're going to go. So I am actually going to meet my my school board member counterpart for that area to talk about the stadium parking. And, I want to make sure that I'm being very clear with everybody in the district who's watching this and maybe doesn't know me from my previous lives. But I've been a public school parent. My, most of my adult life now. I have a 21-year-old, so I was a private, public school parent for that time, and I was there shoulder to shoulder with the parents at Windermere High School when they were advocating here at the county for the approvals for the high school. And, I'm somebody that in many circumstances is going to advocate for protections to exist on land uses. But once we have homes and houses and families, then we have to have schools. And the schools should be close to the homes, houses, and families. And then once we have schools, those schools should have facilities. And so I think it's outrageous that the existing commissioner in this position was one of the many people who denied over and over, always voted no to putting that school there. And then eventually the settlement between the county and the school system was that the stadium would go down the road at a county park. And that was the settlement that was actually signed off on by Judge Blackwell, a very respectable judge here that I look up to. And I remembered when it got to the courts, and I thought, well, what a shame this is that taxpayers on one side are paying the school to fight our county. So on both sides, tax dollars being used. And for what? For what reason? Because a school is going to be the nuisance? You let the houses come in. You let the shopping plaza right there come in. But you're not going to let the school in? And now you're not going to let the stadium in? So it seems to me like if there's an opportunity for us to revisit it, I'll find it. I don't know if there is. I don't know if this was a court order or if it was a settlement that can't be revisited, but I know that I have a good relationship with our counterparts at the school district, and we're going to get our heads together and we're going to meet with our Parks and Rec division. Parks and Rec was the entity that actually made the call. I had no knowledge ahead of time that the Parks and Rec division was going to reach out to the school. And for that, I apologize to our school families. We've addressed it internally, and we're going to make sure that those communications go smoother should this or anything like it happen again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just two other opportunities you might see us today is later today, Commissioner Wilson's going to be popping over to the Healthy West Orange Arts and Heritage Center in Oakland for Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes, Hispanic Heritage Month starts today, and I can't think of a better place to kick it off than the Oakland Arts and Heritage Center. If you haven't visited, please visit. And if you're watching this and you live in Winter Park or Maitland or in Kissimmee, you should still put it on your list. It's absolutely a lovely place to visit, and they always have something going on there. They're having a great series of events, and it's right on the West Orange Trail, so you can build it into a Saturday bike ride and go by there.
Yeah, and then later this evening we're going to be in Lake Avalon Rural Settlement talking to those residents and explaining all the things going on around them within the rural settlement and pertinent ordinance updates, etc. So hopefully we see you somewhere in the next couple of weeks.
And listen, shout out to my Lake Avalon Rural Settlement residents. They have been amazing communication back and forth. We are so fortunate for the partnership. There's been several applications that have come forward that will considerably impact their lives, and they just held hands with us all the way through the process, and we really were able to get a great outcome more than once, and that's our role. We want to be on the other side of a phone call, take your hand and walk you through whatever the process is to make sure that you're being heard. So I'll see you guys later, Lake Avalon Rural Settlement folks, and we will get a chance to catch up.
Yeah, so let's dive right into the BCC. I mean, there was a lot going on. So maybe we can start with...
Look, she's smiling, so it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Let's get right to it.
Let's just go down the list. Let's start with the sales tax update.
Oh, okay. So we're not going to start with the one that's got the big smile.
I know, the one that's really exciting. You'll have to wait a little bit.
Sales tax update. So on the November ballot, you're going to see a referendum that it's specifically Orange County residents. If you're watching this today and you're an Osceola County resident, Lake County, Seminole County, this isn't you. This is Orange County. This is a penny sales tax specifically for transportation. Lot was made out of the agreement as it moved forward past the Board of County Commissioners in order for it to go on the ballot. It did pass, and it is going on the ballot. That doesn't mean it's going to pass. That's still up to you. The voters get to make the decision. I voted no when it came time, and the reason why, very specifically, is because I wasn't comfortable with what District 1 residents were going to be getting as far as what their needs and their investment. District 1 has grown faster and with more strains on infrastructure than any other area, probably in all of Central Florida, maybe all of Florida. And I was very concerned when the plans were moving forward that they weren't getting what they needed. And even more concerning to me was that many of the roadways out in Horizon West are part of a plan that a developer came to the county with. And so the developer is responsible for building in those circumstances. And when I asked our administration and the people that were working on the transportation plan, how does this affect impact fees for roadways and the plans the developers have, the commitments developers have to pay for those road agreements? And I never got a clear understanding that it wouldn't supplant what they owe. And so the idea of asking existing residents to pay for new growth and letting developers off the hook in circumstances where they've already agreed to pay doesn't seem fair to me. That being said, my hope is if it does pass, that we can get really serious about public transit, pedestrian and bike safety, the things that you all have talked to me about. I'm not going to give up on those no matter what. And, I really believe in infrastructure funding. I just wasn't comfortable with what kind of deal District 1 residents were getting.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really the perfect segue into the town center design that also came up with the BCC. If you want to talk a little bit about that. And we made pretty good progress on that one.
So it's called the town center design, but it's actually, if you're familiar with Avalon Road through the New Independence area, it's a segment of roadway there that has that kind of funky dip as you go down.
From Schofield to New Independence.
Yes,
this section.
From Schofield to New Independence. And, I have been called out and participated in community meetings across the district about traffic safety, about roadway safety, about pedestrian safety, about tragic bicycle deaths, people who were riding their bikes who were hit And so
and doing it all the right way.
Not making any mistakes, just trying to get home from school. So I take it very seriously that we committed to Vision Zero as a plan as a county. Vision Zero is a commitment that not just this county, but regionally, it's also been adopted across the world in an effort to identify design issues that end up forcing accidents. So accidents, humans are going to make mistakes, right? We're going to all do something stupid. I am a klutz and I make mistakes all the time. What Vision Zero narrows in on is actually areas where you can look at the design and you realize if there's going to be an accident here, it's going to be a bad one. And the individual who's going to get hurt is potentially the one least protected. And that's typically our pedestrians and our bicyclists. So looking at those points of contact, Vision Zero identifies that speed, without a doubt, we know that the data shows for every 10 miles per hour you go up in speed, the more deaths you're going to have in case of an accident. So I have tried really hard talking about this plan and all the other roadway plans to say, we've got to implement the things we know right now. So, oh gosh, Hannah, how would you describe the negotiations about this? Because this
they
is a private
were
developer.
Firm and unequivocal. Commissioner Wilson did an amazing job being very clear in translating what you all tell us every day, whether it's near Windermere High or on Sidell Road or Hamlin Groves Trail or Dr. Phil, all over. We have the same issue.
Hunters Creek, Williamsburg, every single area of District 1, have all been clear.
Yes. So we were able to get some concessions there from the developer and from our staff, to be honest. And they went from 12-foot wide travel lanes and one 10-foot multi-use path on one side, which 12-foot wide is pretty wide. It makes you feel like a highway,
Right.
Like if you're thinking about what other road that might be, think Sidell, where we were recently for pedestrian safety
which
issues.
people do speed on because it looks and feels like a highway, even though it's residential, even though there's an elementary school right there.
Right. So we were able to narrow the lanes. Staff, it was supposed to come at the end of August, and they said, all right, you've been clear, we'll go back to the drawing board. So they came back with something that's not quite perfect, but they did narrow the travel lanes and they added 2 multi-use paths on both sides. So there'll be 2 10-foot paths, one on either side of Avalon Road from Schofield all the way to New Independence through the town center. Because we said, no town center is known for its intersection.
No, and I think having schools along there that people may or may not be able to ride their bikes to or walk to would just be a travesty. And it's an agreement. It's with a private developer. This was a private public partnership, and so we have to do it right, and we got to do it right now. Otherwise, we're going to go back and pay in taxpayer money to fix something that should have been done right the first time. And in this go around, it's using the fees that developer owes to the community, the existing community.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a little bit of wins there, and we're going to keep working on being proactive instead of reactive all the time with traffic safety.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I don't know if we've even touched base since the Best Foot Forward event that we went out to. Mm-hmm. But if you were there, thank you so much for stopping by. We had residents that, jogged up and greeted us and texted me that, I think I just saw you out there. And I can't tell you how reaffirming it was for us to go out, see the safety concerns trying to cross there, see kids getting on a bus somewhere that people were zooming around the bus, and understand that even with a whole bevy of sheriffs standing right there, I almost got hit. And we were with the sheriffs trying to enforce. So, we'll just keep hammering away at it. It's all data driven. Everything that we say and that we're doing based in that Vision Zero plan is data driven. And so, knowing that, we should be able to hopefully get to some of the things that we do have to retrofit, whether it's mid-block crossings, elevated crossings, putting in some other type of pedestrian safety feature, or, my dream, protected bike lanes. So we'll get there.
Yes, exactly. And so, this is why Commissioner said she saw my smile. This next topic from the BCC is something that we've all been working really hard on since January. Take it away, Commissioner, on Shingle Creek.
So this came forward really as a potential for something going in, a development plan that wasn't really coming forward yet, that there might be a might. And
back in a year ago.
And we looked at the satellite of this area and just had a panic because it was clearly in critical wetland in the Shingle Creek Basin, in one of the last remaining fully protected or fully covered wet areas leading into Shingle Creek, which then of course is part of the Kissimmee River, which is then the headwaters of the Everglades. So this kind of gut feeling that if anything came forward that potentially could impact this area, that we would be imperiling probably some of the most critical ecosystems in our region. And I don't know if you can ever get that back, because we're talking about floodplains and flood retention and a
aquifer recharge,
so
carbon sequestration,
exactly
all the things that none of us ever think about until we might not have them.
Well, and we're talking about floods, right? We're talking about why something's different, what's happening. Well, we know that the volume of rain has probably increased due to climate change, but we also know that we're not absorbing the way we did because we have all this ground cover in asphalt. So these critical recharge points and the drainage services that nature gives us, we only have so much left. And so Hannah, to her credit, started digging, started pulling stuff together, started digging. And what we did was we submitted a memo to the Board of County Commissioners, to the administration, mayor, everybody, basically saying, can we pull this off the table? Can we give a complete moratorium for development applications in this area until we get information about what's happening there? We have an ongoing update to our wetland code. We have an ongoing update to our tree ordinance. We have an ongoing update to the state of the our stormwater. Knowing that these things are in process, to me, it only seemed reasonable to hit the pause button on anything coming in somewhere so critical if the information we're going to get back from those updates would change the outcome of those development plans. So fast forward several months. I would say how many departments worked on this? I mean, it was across Orange County's departments, our Environmental Protection Department, our Public Works Department, the planning and across the board, and brought forward really where we are in that area and then what we can do to protect it. So there was a lot of information, and I could not be any more proud of the Board of County Commissioners, the mayor. The mayor advocated that this come forward with this much work. Our Orange County staff, for the times that I know I'm probably really critical and difficult, this took such great effort, and there was so much work put into it, and it was so thorough. I am so grateful for the work that was done and the collaboration, because we now have a roadmap for how to try to make sure that that's off the table, that it is something that we can protect. And so we have very specific steps moving forward that we can take. Yeah,
for years to come, as far out as 2025. Yeah. So, even if we're gone, we know that it was one of those Florida stories as old as time, sold in the back magazine for a nickel and a dime in 1912.
1912, the plat.
Is when it was platted.
So critical wetland, the headwaters of the Everglades, was split up into these little squares and sold off, platted from 1912.
And people got there and they were like, this is wet. So they left. But it's left us with a ton of different owners of these parcels today still.
And if you think about property law and what that means, is that, unless we really figure out how to acquire those, right, which could mean buying them, it could mean having the state, the water management district work with us on it. If we can't get to that, then somebody's property rights will be infringed upon. And so even the parcels that we fully understand are not going to be developable because they are wet. It doesn't matter. We still have to be able to acquire those legally in order to make sure that we're not, running afoul of a Burt Harris law, which means that it's a taking. But in Florida, taking is even more complicated. You can take for less. And so we just have to make sure that those are done the right way. And we really do have the roadmap now. What were you most excited about as far as the things that were sort of laid out for us? What do you see as our...
That's a good question. I think the thing that I was most excited about with the Shingle Creek work session was the most immediate one that we identified, which was removing 2 potential roads from the long-range transportation plan because it's free, it's easy,
right.
It's just on paper, and it doesn't cost anybody anything tangible or intangible, but it could do a lot
right.
to save the area.
And so that long-term transportation plan, these 2 roadways basically were written in as potential options for future development. Mm-hmm. So no tax money has gone to waste yet building them. Nobody has been promised them. And so really it is a win-win that it doesn't cost us anything just to remove those. And then we don't have the cleaver coming down into that wetland. And that's what those roadways are, because once you build it, they come. Right. So having those roadways removed prevents the invitation and prevents that, some promises or expectations that can be made as a result of the roadway.
Yeah, so that's the first thing. The other thing I love that you said during the BCC on that was that Commissioner Wilson really took the time to point out that this is coming at a time when so many water quality issues are converging. Yeah. We are re-examining the wetlands ordinance, and we are doing a tour of the Econ Mitigation Bank soon. We're re-examining the tree protection ordinance. And we've invested already in our Green Place acquisition. Green Place acquisition. Fertilizer.
Yeah. So
really
Green Place,
if
that's a new word for you, it was something that was actually on the books for a very long time here in Orange County, but it was never funded, or it wasn't funded appropriately, or it was defunded. And in 2021, when I got here, we made the purposeful investment to make sure that there was funds available for especially very fragile ecosystems. And I can't think of a place that's any more fragile than this. So for me, when we look at all the things that came forward through this, and what was a light bulb moment for me, and what was a promise, I feel like, really to our residents, was hearing that we have the ability or have some kind of relationship with the water management district in this area, who may or may not get directives from the state that benefits Orange County residents. And so addressing it now, before something happens from the state, where we have the first right of refusal on a
yes.
parcel that the water management district owns. So let me rewind and explain that. If the water management district owns a piece of land and the state says, you got to sell it, we need the money, that's a process that Orange County may not typically have anything to do with, or can't really have a lot of discretion.
Even if it's a really important parcel.
Even if it's a really important, exactly. And so in this case, because we have been along the way in collaborative agreements with the water management district, there are opportunities where we may be able to get a right of first refusal on those parcels, which means we would be able to acquire them into our own protection. And so to me, it just feels like such a great safety net in the event that we have, somebody in Tallahassee that doesn't care what happens to our flooding and our ecosystems here. So to me, I felt like the most optimistic in really seeing sort of the passion in our scientists, in our environmental protection division, feeling empowered to get this research done and present it, made me feel really happy.
Yeah. It was really great, BCC. Highly recommend you go back and watch. And then the last item that we might want to chat a little bit about is that we approved the Affordable Housing Action Plan for the next 3 years and had an associated item in the consent agenda.
So Orange County is one of the few counties in Florida that has its own affordable housing trust. And if you have heard of the state trust fund for affordable housing, you will likely have also heard that they've done a horrible job of actually utilizing it for what it was intended. And oftentimes money gets diverted out of the state affordable housing trust fund into other pet projects across the state. Well, the county's affordable housing trust fund is being used very specifically, very clearly, very directedly towards affordable housing. Typically, it's a partnership. Affordable housing developer that comes in needs to be incentivized, needs to make sure that they can get through that process. And so those investments aren't necessarily only just the county's investments, but we can help get those investments done. So this is such a tremendous part of the housing, I think, crisis, is that everyone goes back to inventory, whether you are, pro rent stabilization or against it, whether you're pro rental assistance or against it, everyone seems to realize that we just don't have enough options, good options on, in places that have transportation and infrastructure. Well, having dedicated funding to help those projects come in and get done gives us the most power we can have in that space. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of feeling about whether or not the county should have its own land trust where it's building its own housing. Quite frankly, I kind of feel like there are private partners that do a better job, we all know what the kind of old school HUD housing looked like, and it wasn't attractive. The newer developments that are done with our private partners, they're beautiful. They're an asset to the community. We have private partnerships coming in from our two largest employers in the area. Private employers, both Universal and Disney, are interested in doing affordable housing as part of their efforts to make sure that their workforce is taken care of. So, to me, it's very, once again, it's on point with our goals. And I think it's really important for people to know that this is not just one avenue, right? So that rent stabilization measure that you're going to see on the November ballot, which, by the way, it's going to be there because the judge said it is, isn't the only item. And it's really, to me, quite frankly, a small portion because it doesn't affect very many renters. The most important thing we can do is focus on redevelopment, good redevelopment incentives, focus on bringing in those partnerships and making it attractive to affordable housing developers to come to Orange County, that we're not going to prohibit them from coming to any district, that we want good housing inventory and good housing stock.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And just a note there to tack on, it's funny because at the board, you see things like this Affordable Housing Action Plan, and then you also see an example of missing middle housing.
Oh, yeah.
And missing middle isn't about the price point. The point of more housing supply is that the more supply you have, the lower the market rate is.
Right.
And so you not
supply
only
need
affordable housing, you not only need things that are stable, but you also need more market rate.
Right. And you need it in places that aren't necessarily, wouldn't have traditionally been considered, right? So we talk about the idea of doing lot divisions in places that have oversized lots, and can we make this two homes? Can we do what would have been a duplex? Can it be a quad? Because if you can have 4 beautiful homes for people on that same space, that would add to the inventory. And the project that Hannah's referring to was in a residential neighborhood, but it was townhomes, and the code right now prevents the developer or the builder in this area, which is a small builder, from being within a certain distance from the single family dwelling that was behind where the lot is. And they were essentially seeking waivers from that particular requirement. Well, this had been continued how many times? 3 times, and
three community meetings
for 8 units. For 8 units, which I know everyone's like, well, that's not gonna make a difference in the overall housing stock. Well, it is if you think about the fact that anybody out there that maybe owns a few lots and thinks, well, I could put some beautiful townhomes on this and then 8 families can live here instead of 2.
And it's the message it sends to people who aren't just big builders.
And that's the type of invitation that you worry about, and it sort of makes my I have a big question mark over my head during these, because there have been developments that have come forward in District 1 that did not have infrastructure in place, that did not have a price point other than high-end luxury, that didn't have capacity in schools, and we weren't able to move anybody off of 600 units. So, seeing a potential development, a small one that adds 8 units where there's already infrastructure, and that would be, along the same price point, so the value of that community isn't there. It wouldn't change the value. It was, to me, a little disheartening to not see the movement. We had just talked about this housing trust fund. And so the disconnect between that missing middle and what that means and what we're really doing every day at the BCC, we're not there yet. We're getting closer, but it's an educational process.
Yeah. So with that, I think that's it for now, unless you have anything else, Commissioner.
Right,
I know so much has been going on.
All right, let me look at my little reminders thing here. Oh, septic sewer. We talked about that too. There's going to be we have working groups that are bringing forward every component of doing a septic to sewer investment. So this is also across departments, which has been really exciting, including the Florida Health Department of Health, because septic systems, well systems, those are all things that impact your health. And so having them here to talk about existing septic and the way that it's evaluated and talking about areas of vulnerability, we are really queuing up what I feel like is going to be a very big push to make sure that areas of vulnerability are retrofitted and to make sure moving forward that we have good policies in place to protect people from potentially septic leaching, which is a problem with septic tanks. I know they're really the only option in some areas, but areas that are near water bodies or there's some other vulnerability, we just need to be consistent in making sure that people have options. And I know it's very expensive to go back in and pull a septic out and connect someone with sewer. So how can we get the most from our money? How can we get the most from the state and the federal government? And so these are all the things we're talking about in those septic to sewer updates.
Yep. Awesome.
I think that's
all
it.
I got. So, all right. Well, thank you all so much.
Metro plan, but stay tuned for next one because we'll share that.
Yes, and hopefully we see you all. I mean, we'll put another reminder out, but for next week, September 22nd, Commissioners in-person office hours, just pop on by Winter Garden City Hall.
Give us an email first, and we can make sure if there's anything we need to get for you or get some research done that we get it. But yeah, it'll be great to see you all out there.
Yes, and sorry, one more thing. I see we did get one comment on the virtual office hours about road construction on Summer Lake Park that began in June. If you don't mind emailing us at district1@ocfl.net, I just want to be totally sure about which project you might be discussing, and then we'll get you all the details.
We'll get the timeline, and I know there was some questions about timelines for some of the park projects, so we'll get those too.
Yep. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Have a good
day.